Okay, we're going to get started here. I know there's still more people trying to find their way to this room, and so let me tell a little story while we're waiting for them to make their way here. So about 12 years ago, I was getting ready for my first MMS, like most of you have been doing recently, and I was, checking out the information online and getting ready, and I was excited. I was going to come here and really do my best. And, as I try to psych myself up for coming to an event like MMS, I had my MCSE in my pocket, and I decided to bring my family with me. So we hit the Vegas airport, and I've got the laptop bag over one shoulder, diaper bag over the other, because our daughter was a 1-year-old. I'm pushing the stroller, and I'm thinking this is going to be great. But then what happens is the reality of the situation started to sink in. I'd never been to Las Vegas before, and the lights and the slot machines and the big, monstrous, cavernous hotels. I'd never been to a technical event like this, a big event like a Microsoft conference, and I hadn't been to MMS. And on top of that, I brought my family with me, and I've got a hearing problem on top of that, which you're adding those things up, and it can maybe make being very successful at coming to an event like this challenging. And what happened is I decided I was going to conquer this thing. And so what I want to share with you a little bit today is some of those things that I've learned that will help you all, first time being here, to learn the things that I've learned over time and learn from other people. We've got some alumni here that I want to introduce at the end that you can ask them more questions, and so that you'll get it right from the very first time. So let's go through some of the agenda here. First thing we're going to talk about is just some of the basics. I know they give you a conference guide, and when I looked at the conference guide, it says that it looks like a full 88 pages. So I'm going to try and break out the stuff that you really need to know, so you don't have to read through all of that. Then I'm going to give you the 4 steps. 4 steps to conquering the summit, and they're very important. And we'll go through those 4 steps. Then the last thing we'll do is we'll not only meet some alumni, but I've got some signs up around the room here, because one of the hardest things to do is connect with people who might be from your area. And so we'll do that at the very end. So let's look first at the very basics. We've got one keynote. I see that I have a typo there. One keynote this year. We've had two or more in the past. One keynote, 160 plus breakouts, 38 instructor-led labs, 58 self-paced labs, Microsoft certification exams, 5,000 plus attendees. And the good thing is over half of them are new. So I have a couple questions just to ask about it. How many of you plan to do certification exams while you're here? Certification exams. A fair number of you. Yes, that's something that was brought in new last year. Very good thing. A lot of people took part of it. This year, the discount on the exams is like 50%. They got exam cram sessions. They've got some exam prep sessions. And if for some reason you're up really early in the morning or up really late at night, the exam prep area is usually open the earliest and the latest. So if you're just looking for a place to go, that's where you want to go, early or late in the day. So here's some of the tricks and tips and tricks that you need to learn that are going to really help you execute on conquering the summit. The first thing, I know it's gotten a lot better with smartphones. Travel light. How many of you have your laptop with you right now? Good, not that many of you. What you want to do with that laptop, unless you absolutely need it, in your hotel room, usually in the closet or somewhere, there's a safe, should be able to fit a 15, maybe a 17-inch laptop. Lock it up. If you don't need it, it will get really heavy throughout the day. So lock it up, use your smartphone, Is there anyone that doesn't have a smartphone today? Fantastic, not a one. There you go, you all have smartphones. Use those. If you happen to need a keyboard and a mouse, go to the ComNet area, what they call attendee services. It's right below here. They've got some computers, they got printers. They also have wireless help. But there's something new this year. Let's talk about wireless. Anyone had any challenges connecting to wireless here? Nobody, a couple. Okay, they added, it used to be just an open wireless network. This year they added a security key. There's two networks, MMS 13-AN, MMS 13-GN. And both of them use the same security key. It's MM Summit 2013. So if you're having a challenge getting connected to wireless, that's what you needed to know. That's in the conference guide, but you got to dig for it a little bit. If you do have challenges, there's people down there that'll help you get your wireless issues sorted out. The other thing that's down there besides the labs is there's also the servaquarium. Does anyone know what I mean when I say a servaquarium? A few of you. Okay, great. In just a few minutes, I've got Steve Cole here, who is responsible for the servaquarium. He's going to come up here and he's going to explain it to you. So we'll get to that in just a little bit. Talking about your smartphones. MMS 2013 has a mobile website. So if you need to look at all of your breakout schedules, go ahead and connect right through your smartphone. A little more on the housekeeping level. How many of you is your first time to Las Vegas? All right, then this is very important for all of you. Las Vegas has a very, very dry climate. Drink lots of water. And if you can find someone handing out chapstick, take it. Because if you buy it, you're going to probably pay $3 or $4 for it. But you're going to need it because it's very dry climate here. A note on your departure on Friday. So there's the conundrum of you want to go to the good sessions on Friday. A lot of times they'll kind of keep some of those nugget sessions for Friday, you know, to make sure there's some good content. But you got to check out of your hotel by 11, right? So what do? Two options. You either leave your bags with the bell desk. Don't do what I see every year. People take their bag and they wheel them with them all Friday. You see them wheeling them from session to session. Just save yourself a hassle. Don't do that. Either leave it with the bell desk. Then when you go to get your ride to the airport, they'll go and get it for you. Or what they have here, which is very nice, at the bell desk in the Mandalay Bay, you can check your bag right to the airport from here. They charge $12 for the first bag. And I think it used to be just like for Southwest Airlines. They've got 6 or 7 airlines now. You go down there and you just take it to them, you give them $12, and you're good to go. You just take your laptop bag and your boarding pass, and you're ready. So please make your Friday departure as easy as possible. So, ComNet is where you're going to get all the information you need, as well as the people that organize this event and the effort that they put into it. Sometimes some things have to change. I'm sure this conference guide was printed many weeks ago, and so you want to be going to the home page of the ComNet website, whether you're accessing it through your smartphone, through your laptop, through one of the PCs that they have in the attendee services area, and just check for what's going on, because you don't want to hike all the way up here just to find that your breakout session that you really wanted to go to is now all the way back down in the North Convention Center. The other thing, you can get an RSS feed of all that, so that you don't even have to go to the web page. You can just have it sent to you, and you can see the changes that are coming in and the news for the day that'll be coming out. Obviously, let's look at the schedule planner here a second. The schedule planner is a couple items I want to show you here. Within your schedule planner, nothing wrong with going old school. Fill out your schedule, go down to the attendee services area, and just print it out. I'm sure the paper that you'd print it on might even be lighter than your smartphone. Or import a calendar, or set up Outlook Sync so that you can get those, get your schedule imported into whatever tool that you want. The most important thing that I share with attendees every year, and it's something that is a hidden idea. Here we go, lots of seating up here. Make your way on up. You came in right at the right time. The number one thing that I tell new attendees to do, because you will not see it on ComNet until now, is every single breakout session has a PowerPoint slide like this that gets posted on the ComNet site. The slides get posted. And what you will see, what does that give you the opportunity to do? Right here you can see these are evaluations. You would see download links right here for the slide decks or any some guys will put scripts in there. Let me see if I can find one where the PowerPoint slide is updated. Sometimes it takes a little bit. So what you'll probably see is that most of the PowerPoint slides for tomorrow will be uploaded tonight. So the first thing you'll want to do is go to your schedule builder in the morning, because you may not know. I've got it's a good problem here at MMS, but you'll get 2 sessions and you're like, man, I want to go see both of them, but they're in the same time slot. Well, one, you don't have to worry about that because all the content's going to be available online within like 24 hours. But if you really don't know which one, you can pull up those slide decks and preview them. And you can go, hey, I think I like this one better than the other. So that is probably the best thing that I can tell people, because you may have spent hours on the MMS 2012 website trying to learn everything that you could, and you would not know that there's going to be PowerPoint slide decks there. So now you know. Check the deck before, if you've got conflicts and you're not sure what you want to do. So let's talk a little bit about maps. In MMS's previously, the breakout rooms were a little bit more condensed. And what you're learning, obviously, everyone trying to get up here to this room was kind of spread out. So this is a nice little map of, here's the hotel, and you all have gotten down here. Obviously, you've got the North Convention Center and then all the South stuff. You almost can think of it as 3 floors. North Convention Center is kind of down in the basement. Then you got the 2nd floor, and then we're up on the 3rd floor of the South. What I want you to remember, pay attention to, is this here. This is the event center. It's going to be very important for tomorrow. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. So here's your Convention Center North, which is the first thing that you come to walking from the hotel. And it's down a flight of stairs. You've been there. That's where you registered. Then you come up to the 2nd floor of the South. And here's the attendee services area. If you get charging stations, ComNet, community activities, and all lounges and labs are in there. Spend some time in there. They'll open this door right here. I know it just looks like lines. They'll open that door right there into the expo area. And then you got the food over there. So that's the 2nd floor. And then, of course, this is what you couldn't find here. We're right here, and the door was on this side instead of over here. So those are the maps. They're in the back, pages 80, 82 and following in your conference guide if you got any questions. So now what I want to do is I want to bring Steve Cole up here to tell you a little bit more about the server aquarium. Give him a round of applause. Steve Cole.
Thanks, Warren. Thanks, everyone. Can you hear me? Is this on? Nod. Yes. No. No mic. Audio guys in the back. Hello. There we go. So my name is Steve Cole. I'm from Extreme Consulting, and we once again this year had the honor of hosting the Server Aquarium. This is our third year of doing this, and you may be asking, well, what's a Server Aquarium? So a little background. Several years ago, we started doing the hands-on labs, and we were originally everything was physical. Every workstation at every user desk in the hands-on labs area had a full copy of the labs. And in order to run the labs, you go set at a particular station, and that's where the labs were. Then we went virtualized, but we had racks and racks and racks of servers getting way out of hand. And about that time, Microsoft started talking more about this cloud thing and doing private clouds and all kinds of stuff. And we're like, well, that sounds like an interesting thing. Why don't we try and actually put that into use, and we'll take all of the labs and put it in a cloud environment. So we did that, and that was 2 years ago in 2011. And now we're kind of progressing through, and this year we've got it down to 2 racks, 32 servers, some storage. We're going to be running about 8 million IOs per second, hosting every single lab in just this environment. The lab stations are now all web-based. It's a self-service portal. You sit down, you click the lab. We're going to fire up through VMM and PowerShell in the back end, fire up the entire environment, and spit it back there. So the idea is, if we can run 500 or so separate Active Directory environments, 500 or separate SQL Server environments, System Center environments, all simultaneously isolated, private, secure, all of that stuff, if we can do that, then imagine what you can do using the exact same tools, the exact same languages, the exact same suite of applications in a production environment. And then we wrap it all in plexiglass and put the people who built it in the room and let anybody come by, talk to them, corner them, get all kinds of questions answered. And then we're also going to have a session Wednesday morning at 10:15 together with HP, who graciously provided the gear for us, and take Q&A, kind of go through the behind-the-scenes stuff of what it takes to put it all together, and take your questions. Hopefully lots of people come by and ask us lots of crazy questions, and take it from there. I think the big thing to take away is the performance level that we're able to get out of it. We're not suggesting that we're following all the best practices on how to build a private cloud, because we're absolutely not. We're doing some really crazy behind-the-scenes stuff that you would never, ever want to do. And if we called up support and said, hey, this is broken, they would hang up on us. You're not supposed to do that. But the idea is that even though we're cutting some corners, and even though we're doing some crazy stuff that's not by the book, it does all work. It is, in fact, using all the same stuff that's on everything that you guys get through System Center and Windows Server and all that stuff. So we'd love to have you come by and take a look at it. You can't miss it. It's the giant rack of servers and all the blinky lights behind plexiglass. You'll see me and a couple other guys from Extreme and folks from HP come by and grab us and ask us all kinds of stuff. Okay? Thanks.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it. Okay. So for those of you who maybe came in a little bit late, the basic stuff we went over, you can find it in your conference guide. You can dig forward a little bit, or once this slide deck gets posted, you can just go ahead and breeze the stuff that maybe you missed in the first couple slides. So let's talk about the 4 steps to conquering the summit. Very simple, but they're very important in the order that you do them. The number one thing that you want to do while you are here is connect with people. Everything else is portable. The second thing you want to do is obviously learn something. Then a very small but extremely important thing is to give feedback. There's evaluations that are available, and there'll be one at the end of the week. That's what makes this event better. We'll talk about that a little bit. Obviously, on top of all that busy schedule that you might have, you want to have some fun too. So we'll talk about that right at the end before we have a little meet and greet. So who is it that you want to connect with? Obviously, how many of you are here and you, for lack of a better word, know not a soul? All right, we're going to fix that. That's about 3/4 of you. When I first came to MMS, I was in your shoes. Never been to MMS before. Never been to a technical conference before. I'd never been to Las Vegas. And I was by myself. My family came with me, but I didn't have any peers with me. So that is very important for you to connect with your peers while you were here. The second most important thing is connect with the presenters. These guys put a lot of time and effort in building their technical skills to share it with you. The last thing you want to do is have that question in your mind going, I wonder if he could have done that a different way. Oh, well, I'm going to go to my next session. Don't do that. Come up and ask those questions to those presenters. They all welcome that. Even if it's, I think there's a better way to what you just did. They all welcome that. The Microsoft team is the other critical people that you want to connect with. There is more of the Microsoft team at this event regarding systems management than you will find at any event that Microsoft holds. They're all here. They have a big, huge section, and I'll show it to you in just a little bit, a big, huge section in the expo hall, and make sure you talk to as many of those people as you can because they're busy people just like you. If you try to get some information out of them while they're back in Redmond doing their work or wherever they're from, that can be a difficult exchange, but they're right there standing in front of you, and they're more than happy to have that conversation. So make sure you do that. In addition to the Microsoft team, obviously there's a whole bunch of vendors in the expo hall, and they're all waiting to have a conversation with you too, especially if they're vendors that you currently are leveraging. Stop by, have that conversation with them, get connected with them so that you never know when you're going to, maybe need to call on that person and for some help. The most obvious one is the meals. I know we're IT people, which means we're just amazingly outgoing, right? So when you go to your breakfast or lunch and you're sitting there around the table, it's so easy, and I've seen it so many times, 8 people sitting around the table, none of them have met each other, and you just eat, and then you get up and leave. Just do the simple thing. Hey, hi, my name's Warren, I work for Dell. And then maybe someone will say, hey, my name's John, I work for whoever, And even if that's all you say, fine. At least you're having a little bit of a conversation. But usually what happens is it's, oh, and what do you do for them? And next thing you know, you're connecting on some technical conversation. So use the meals not just to eat, have a conversation with the people that are there. The biggest key thing is all these people here, everything else is available online, except for the people. So don't miss out on that. Make that your priority. So now let's take it to the next step, connecting with social media and communities. That is the next most important thing that you really should focus on. Right now, they're having a Twitter Army meetup. How many of you use Twitter? Okay, get on your phones right now and tweet to the MMS 2013 hashtag and say, hey, all tweet up guys, I'm here. Follow me. Okay? So that you can start, follow that hashtag this week. Use whatever Twitter tool that you want to use and get following that hashtag. You will find all kinds of people that if you aren't following them now, those are the people you want to follow. And have a connection there through Twitter. Obviously, you can use the breakout code for a hashtag if you want to be tweeting here in the room and maybe see who else might be in the room. Do that, definitely. There's also a hashtag MMS Fun. So maybe this evening you don't have anything on your calendar. Look at the MMS Fun hashtag, pull that up, search it, and you're going to find some people saying, hey, I'm looking to go do something, or I want to meet some, we're all going to, one place or the other, and you can connect up with people that way. Find out what people are doing. Obviously, the tweet up is happening right now. Thank you for those of you that are tweeting out to the group at the tweet up downstairs. The Meet and Geek is another community way to go face-to-face with people and have a technical conversation. The Meet and Geek is on Tuesday night, and it was a smashing success last year. Put that on your schedule, go there, and that's what it's meant to do. You sit down at a table with some people, and you just start having a conversation about technical topics or others. So a good question. How many of you have never heard of myitforum.com? Okay, that's good. It's a small number. myitforum.com is the third-party community for systems management. It's been around 12 years, maybe longer, in other iterations. Please go out to that community and see what they have. They have MMS-specific email lists. They've got specific System Center email lists. And get involved in those so that you can find other sources of technical knowledge from other people to benefit you and what you're doing for your company. Rod Trent, who is the CEO of My IT Forum, and his right-hand man, Ron Crumbaker, have 2 community sessions. Now, I'm giving you the names of these people in bold because in the schedule builder, you just drop down the name and just find the name. It's the easiest way. Instead of putting all the details of their session, I'll just put the name up there, and you can capture that and find it very easily through the schedule builder. So those are great breakout sessions. If you want to know, how do these communities work? How do they, not just the community itself, but user groups? And they have 2 sessions that speak to that. Obviously, Microsoft has its user group, TechNet, and there's vendors here have their own user groups, like Dell has DellTechCenter.com. And so reach out in those communities too to find people that can help you do what you need to do for your company. My IT Forum also hosts most of the user groups. How many of you currently participate in a systems management user group, local user group? Not too many. That's a shame. Go to this page, myitforum.com/groups, and there's probably 25 or 30 groups out there across the U.S. and the world that meet specifically to talk about systems management. Get on their email list and go to one of their events, and you'll meet some people that you can share your experiences with, and vice versa. There's also a community expert bar. So there's down in the attendee services area, there's supposed to be like an experts bar where some people, experts for their given technology, will be there, and you can just interact with them, ask them questions. So make sure you stop by and see that. So let's talk about the keynote. The keynote is extremely important because this is the one. Now, historically, there was 2, maybe 3 keynotes, but this year there's just one because this event is growing big. One keynote, and in this keynote, you're going to get Brad Anderson, who is in charge of all server and systems management for Microsoft, and he's going to tell you the big picture of where Microsoft is taking these products. You're going to see new product announcements. You're going to see new product demos. I typically like to tell people to take notes because if they do a replay of it, it usually takes a while. And if you're trying to capture information that was shared, write it down. It's not like the other breakouts, where the other breakouts, the audio and the PowerPoint slide are going to be available like within 24 hours. That's not always the case with the keynote, so jot down those things that are important to you. They do have a live broadcast of it, and so someone who can't make it locally or someone back at home that you think your manager or something that you're like, I think this is going to be important for you to watch. Have them catch the live keynote. I made a big note here. It is going to be in the event center. So this is the only session in the event center. So tomorrow morning, you're going to want to get your breakfast. Now your breakfast is where? It's here in the South Convention Center. Then you got to walk back to the event center for the keynote. So be ready for a little bit of a walking there. Make sure you get up early enough to get that taken care of. There is one thing that's going to be, I want to highlight this. Following the keynote, they've never done this before. They're going to have a session called the Keynote Demo Deconstruction. Look it up on the schedule builder. They're basically going to talk about all of the demos at a technical level, how they built it, why they chose to demo that product the way they did. I think that's going to be fascinating. So make sure you look at the demo deconstruction in your schedule. So let's talk about labs. How many of you did some labs today? Anybody? No. No one's got into labs yet. So historically, the labs were a scheduled thing, and they were very difficult to get into. But then, based on feedback, the MMS team made most of the labs available self-paced. And you'll be able to get in there and just do as many as you want. I encourage you to do the self-paced labs. They always were the most efficient for me to do. But for those of you where it's a new topic and you're like, yeah, I really want someone to help me through this, there's some fantastic lab proctors that will help not only in the self-paced labs if you have a question, but they'll actually lead an instructor-led lab. The instructor-led labs you'll have to sign up for, and those are scheduled. But that will give you that a little more guided approach to get through some of the labs. Now, you're going to see that they fill up, and the self-paced areas you'll want to try to hit them outside of the peak hours, which typically are, early in the morning or after the sessions close, or try to maybe get to lunch early and then go get some labs done when people come to lunch late. So take advantage of all that. Don't get discouraged if you go to the labs and all the seats are taken. Don't give up. Keep pushing forward. The lab material is available online. So that was something that they started several years ago because people wanted to just take the lab material home. They didn't necessarily need to have the whole lab environment. You can get that through some of the extended lab subscriptions, but you can at least get the content, the script that you work through in the lab and have that available to you. How many of you are taking part in the extended lab subscription? Very, very smart group of people out there. That looks like well over half of you. That's a very, very good thing that they started a few years ago. Not only is it making the lab materials available, but they're updating them over time. So that as they started that, I think one year when there was a new product that just wasn't quite out when MMS came out, and so all the labs were still on beta, and so they said, here's what we're going to do. In whatever it was, 60, 90 days, this product's going to launch. We'll update all the labs with the RTM code and let you have it. And it was very well received. So very, very smart group of you out there taking part of the extended lab subscription. We already talked about checking the deck for the breakouts. And make sure that's the first thing you do every morning. I've come with some friends, co-workers, where they'll get up in the morning and not only do they review the decks of the sessions that they want to see for the day, but they just download them right off the website there and into like their own little repository so that they can just capture all that data so that when they go back and your manager says, what did you learn? Well, here, you either hand them a folder with, 160 slide decks in it and say, have a good time, or you you pick out little bits and pieces that you think are valuable to your company, maybe collate it into a slide deck and say, look, this is what I learned. You don't have to make that slide deck yourself. You just borrow it from the presenters. Now, I know there's a challenge. A lot of sessions are showing up as overbooked. But overbook your schedule anyways. Because what you don't want to do is walk into a session and it not be what you wanted. And you don't have that alternate. Do not feel bad. I have people walk out of my session. Don't feel bad. You sit down in a session and you see something and it's really not what you thought it was. Well, have that alternate session, pick up and go. And go to the next one. So overbook your schedule. Another great thing to do, because with 160 breakouts, it's impossible to go to all of them. But when you're sitting at the meals, right, and you're talking to people at the meals, right, you could say, hey, well, what sessions are you going to after lunch? Well, I'm going to this one, but I'm thinking about this one. And the guy says, well, I'm going to go to that first one. Okay, well, how about I'll go to the second one, and then we'll meet up afterwards and compare notes and talk about what we saw. Divide and conquer. It's really you could get way more value out of MMS by connecting with people and sharing that knowledge, because you can't go to all the sessions yourself. And of course, every single session, try and find something to ask the presenter a question about. Come up afterwards and say, hey, look, whether all the session areas have microphones available, whether the speaker opens it up to questions and you come up and ask questions, or sometimes they run out of time, just come up to the front. Ask those questions. Very important. But last but not least, don't get stressed out if you're quadruple booked on one time slot. There are 4 very important sessions. You want to see them all. They just happen to be in the same slot. In that situation, it's going to be online. In this situation, it'll be 24 hours, and it'll be available online with the audio and 24 to 48 hours. And you can just watch it when you have a chance and get caught up. So what I want to do now is I want to talk through a little bit of the top presenters. Now let me preface that. Every presenter here that I've ever heard has great things to share, okay? But there's some that I think they just stand out for a lot of reasons. It's my personal opinion. So don't sit there and if you go to a session that I don't talk about here and you think it was the best session, great. Send me an email, tell me about it. I want to hear about it. But these are just some that historically these guys have presented quality content over and over and over again. So let's first talk about OS deployment. How many of you are responsible for OS deployment in your environment? About 3/4 or more. So what you have here is you have Michael Niehaus. He works on the Microsoft team responsible for Windows deployment on the client side. He's got 5 sessions. There's something to pay attention to is if you see someone who has 5 sessions, or like with Johan, he's got 7 sessions. There's a reason why he gets those many sessions. It's quality stuff. It's not easy to get that many sessions at an event like this. But these guys are doing 5 sessions and 7 sessions because Microsoft knows that their content is exceptional. So Michael Niehaus is going to be talking about MDT, Windows 8, Windows RT, assessment and deployment toolkit demos. Johan, talking generically, choosing the right OS deployment tool, user state migration tool, MDT, and also Windows 8. So, like I said, just pull up their name, look at the sessions that they have, pick the ones that fit your schedule and you're interested in. You will not be disappointed. Michael Nystrom is also, he's got 3 sessions, more talking about advanced MDT and using light touch with MDT. Then you also have Jim Dempsey and DC Tardy, deploying Windows 8 with Configuration Manager 2012 SP1. How many of you are looking at deploying Windows 8 with Configuration Manager 2012 SP1? Okay, a fair number of you. Okay, so that might be of interest to you. Alfred Ojukwu and Frank Pinto, replacing BIOS with UEFI deployment. How many of you are working through the challenges of transitioning from BIOS to UEFI? I see a very strong hand in the back. Anyone else? Okay, well, I'm here to tell you that that is something that is coming and is going to happen. So I would encourage you to look at either, Alfred and Frank's session and learn a little bit about UEFI. I know Johan is also going to be talking about UEFI for deploying clients that are configured that way. So, OS deployment. Systems management. How many of you own your configuration manager infrastructure? A good majority of you. So, historically, we had what was called a State of the Union address for configuration managers, typically after one of the keynotes. And that's where you went and you heard, well, just like you would expect, the State of the Union. Here's where Configuration Manager is today. Here's where it's going tomorrow. High level, and they would overview some of the Configuration Manager sessions. There is no State of the Union this year. What I would suggest you go to is this Configuration Manager 2012 MVP Expert Panel. Okay? Because what you have in this, right, Microsoft, they award MVPs, which is a designation of someone who is a very high skill set in a given technology. The Config Manager MVPs are here. I think there's maybe 20 of them here in the US and maybe 30 worldwide or something like that. A lot of them are here. In this session, it's going to be like getting 9 mini sessions or a sampler of 9 sessions all at once. These MVPs are going to come up. Some of them are presenting future presentations this week. Some of them aren't, but they're going to get up. They're going to give a little nugget of something that some technology that they use, or some way to work through a challenge. They're going to be, each one's going to get about 10 minutes. So you're going to hear from 8 or 9 MVPs in an hour, and be able to basically preview some of their sessions. I think that's very valuable. So look up the MVP Experts panel. Obviously, Mark Florida is going to give the overview of SP1. How many of you are already on 2012 SP1? That's a good number. About half of you. That's fantastic. So if you have any questions about that, I would definitely encourage you to go to Mark Florida's session, especially if you are on RTM looking to go to SP1. You're going to get good info there. Greg Ramsey has 4 sessions. He's hosting the MVP Experts panel, and he's also doing a session on PowerShell and scripting that he's been doing for a very long time, a very, very successful session. So if you're a scripting guy, who considers himself a scripting guy? That's a good number of you. So if you're scripting and you're into PowerShell, Greg Ramsey has a great session. So Brian Mason and Kent Agerland, they're going to talk about advanced infrastructure items for Configuration Manager 2012 SP1. I know Brian Mason comes from a very, very large bank, 250,000 clients. So if you're wondering how to do an infrastructure on that scale, that's how you're going to find it out. Chris Knackers is also going to talk about migrating. How many of you are still on Configuration Manager 2007? Okay, not that many of you, but a fair number. If you want to get the ins and outs of how to get migrated from 2007 to 2012, look at Chris Knacker's session. Next, we have Jason Sandys and Kim Oppelfens. And this is a very, very interesting session because the title just kind of piques your interest, actually, because it's called Configuration Manager Actually. And if you look at the details of what they're going to do, they're looking at a lot of the technical issues that have been reported on Configuration Manager 2012 and how to work through them. So if you want that deep level understanding of really understanding the deep challenges of Config Manager 2012, that's what you want to go to. So the next question for you guys, how many of you are responsible for your SQL database for Configuration Manager? A good number of you. That's great. Steve Thompson is the SQL guru of the MVP crew. And so he's got this advanced SQL query techniques beyond the basics. Obviously, in that title, he's trying to let you know that he really wants to go into the deep stuff. So Steve Thompson is your guy. Now, Wally Mead does not have any breakouts this year. But Wally Mead is I think he's been working on Configuration Manager products or their predecessors for almost 20 years now. And I call him the Config Manager Godfather. But here at MMS, he does a lot of the instructor-led labs. So if you're kind of new to Configuration Manager, how many of you are new to Configuration Manager? Yes, that's a good number of you. If you raised your hand and you're new to Configuration Manager, you want to go to one of Wally's instructor-led labs because you will be amazed at the answers that he'll have if you ask him questions. Very, very deep knowledge set. The last one is something started last year. They set up on Friday, I don't think it's on Friday this year, was a Jeopardy quiz on Configuration Manager. And they got some of the best people that they could find, and they put them head to head. What we have this year is a grudge match. The team that lost wanted a rematch, and so this is that they find the hardest technical questions that they can throw at them and see who can win out. So it should be very fun and also very informative. So make sure you catch the Jeopardy quiz. So how many of you are responsible for operations manager in your environment? All right, that's a good number. That's a good number. So we've got Daniel Savage and Joseph Chan are going to give the overview. So if you're looking for what the new stuff is in Ops Manager, check out their session. Martin Goat is going to give the details. Martin comes from overseas, and they bring him over here for a very good reason. He really knows his stuff on Ops Manager. So if you want to look at the details of monitoring, managing, network and storage infrastructure, really getting Ops Manager to get that reporting on your infrastructure, I would encourage you to check out Martin's session. Byron Ricks is going to be talking about new management packs. So if you're looking for what's the new management packs or that you might need or use, check out Byron's session. Satyavel and Eugene Bykov are going to be talking about utilizing and developing dashboards. How many of you utilize your dashboards in Ops Manager? Okay, not as many of you. So you might want to check that out and learn how they're developing dashboards and how you can leverage that in your environment. Anna Timasheva and Daniel Savage are going to be talking about global service monitoring with Systems Center Operations Manager 2012 SP1. I know global service monitoring, that's the whole key of getting your Ops Manager environment scaled out. So if you are only using Ops Manager in one space, you might want to look and see how they're doing it on a global level. Now I added Peter Zerger in here. It's not Operations Manager per se, but it's best practices for runbook authoring and managing Orchestrator. How many of you are using Orchestrator in your environment? Okay, Peter Zerger is a great guy for getting Orchestrator information, so you might want to check out his session. Virtualization. I'm sure how many of you are I ask these questions because it's great feedback for me. I'm maybe being a little selfish here, but it's also for you to see your peers and what they're working on. How many of you are doing some type of virtualization on the client? Oh, wow, that's a good number of you. I know server virtualization has been around for a long time, but client virtualization is something that's still gaining traction, but that was a good number of you. So Tim Crabb has the session on using how to manage and deploy Microsoft user experience virtualization UEV across the enterprise. Jeff Woolsey is going to be talking about 2012 Hyper-V. So if you're using Hyper-V on your back end, Jeff Woolsey is your guy. Adam Carter and Era Bernardi are going to be talking about new things in Windows Server 2012 virtual desktop infrastructure and RDS. So if you're doing VDI and RDS in a combination, that's a great session. Vijay Tiwari, talking about the overview of Virtual Machine Manager. How many are using Virtual Machine Manager? Wow, that's a good number. Okay, so you want to sit in on Vijay's session to find out what's new there. And John Russell has a session on how to use Server 2012 desktop virtualization on Dell Active Infrastructure. So let's talk about security and compliance. Usually security and compliance falls on somebody else, but how many of you are here because your primary role is security and compliance? Okay, there's a few of you, okay? And I'm sure the rest of you have maybe some portion of your role is security and compliance. So you don't want to miss out on these. Chris Jackson is the app compat guy at Microsoft. So part of your role is getting application compatibility for your applications for Windows 8. You definitely want to take in Chris Jackson. I've worked with him. He came and consulted at Dell once, and this guy he knows application compatibility. I mean, he doesn't call himself the app compat guy without reason. Chad Till is going to be talking about compliance settings and control of end-user installed software. Everybody who's not concerned about what end users are putting on your systems. Okay, everybody is. You want to be able to see if that's happening. You want to be able to control that. Matthias Wolnick is going to be talking about dynamic access control for compliance and data leakage prevention. So that's a mouthful there. So if that's part of your role, where you're taking it to not just compliance, but looking at how you're controlling data and making sure that you aren't having issues there, Matthias is a session. His session would be a good one to go to. So for Data Protection Manager, how many of you are using Data Protection Manager? Good, we've got some out there. That's great. I'm glad to see that the System Center product line is getting a lot of use there. Gaurav Gupta has a session on protecting your private clouds with Data Protection Manager. So now, System Center Endpoint Protection integration with Configuration Manager 2012 SP1. So how many of you are using System Center Endpoint Protection? Okay, a fair number. Okay, so that might be interesting. Adam Barron. Now this is an interesting session here. Adam Barron talking about release wave licensing recap. How many of you have any type of role helping your company true up with licensing? Wow, yeah, a lot of you. Yeah, whether you're getting reports out of System Center or Configuration Manager or what have you. So Adam's going to be talking specifically about the licensing wave that just came out and how that might affect you. So don't miss out on that one if that's part of what you would need to be responsible for. So let's talk about cloud. Okay, Sean Gibbs, Carmen Crincoli, Charles Joy, and Kath McBride. I chuckle a little bit. Fundamentals of building clouds. I'm like, okay, a little water, a little heat. I don't know, but obviously they're going to talk about how many of you are new to the concept of cloud, don't know how to define cloud. Yes, I would say go to their fundamentals and see how they're defining it, because a lot of people define cloud in different ways. So next we have Tushar Oza and Kevin Noreen. They're talking about efficient and agile infrastructure management for cloud environments. So if you need to be managing how many of you are using a private or public cloud in any form or fashion? Very good number. That is encouraging to see. So let's talk about Vlad Jovanovic. He's going to be talking about managing and monitoring your Windows Azure usage from System Center 2012 SP1. So if you are trying to leverage Azure and you want to be able to track that usage better, I think Vlad's got a great session there. So getting down here, Eduardo Kasner and Tiander Turpidgen. How to build, I know that's a tough one. How to build your strategy for a private cloud. I mean, I think a lot of people are looking at, I know cloud when it first came out, it was, all these different concepts going back and forth, but I think a lot of people say, well, let's start with the private cloud. So here's a strategy. If you're still just in the beginning phases of trying to develop that, take in this session and see what you can bring home with that. Michael Washam has Take Control of the Cloud with the Windows Azure PowerShell commandlets. Back to you scripting guys. If you need to be doing some PowerShell with your cloud infrastructure, I think this is really interesting. So I saved this slide towards the end because it's really what some people come to MMS, they say, this is all I want to hear. I just want to hear from the people in the field how they're getting it done. So here you go. You got S-Pharma and KJML, how Microsoft IT uses Config Manager 2012 SP1. You want to know how Microsoft does it? Here's two guys going to talk about it. Make sure you don't miss their session. The customer panel discussion. Successes and lessons learned in unified device management. There you go. A whole panel of customers are going to be talking about their successes and lessons learned. So don't miss the customer panel discussion. Erdal Oskaya, becoming a Windows Intune IT admin, a real-world perspective. How many of you are trying to leverage Intune or looking at it? Okay, a few of you. Yeah, I've been to Erdal's session before, and I think he's from New Zealand, and he's doing he's got his own IT management business using Intune. Very, very good good information there. Matt Hudson, Jeff Housen, and Neil Peterson. Notes from the field. Massive configuration manager migration. Complex, that's my typo. Complex and massive configuration manager migrations. So if you're still looking at doing migrations and you need to do it on a large scale from 2007 to 2012, you want to check that out. Phil Pritchell and Jarvis Davis talking about deploying all of System Center. Two real-world examples. I saw many of you are using more than one component of System Center. So if you want to see how they deploy all of it, this is a good one. And Von Nerdahl talking about orchestrator best practices, lessons learned at Cargill. So you want to hear how Cargill implemented orchestrator. There's your real-world perspective. Last but not least, Michael Schultz, Top Shops. Michael Schultz is a Microsoft consultant. He travels around talking to customers and helping them with projects. Here's his field notes from IT departments that rock. So if you want to hear how people are doing it today, these are your sessions. So let me talk a little bit about some hidden gems as we wrap up here. The birds of a feather. Those were voted on by people who signed up for MMS. So you want to get, and so they were voted on, and there's 12 of them. They're usually in the evening, so you want to go, and they'll be a smaller group. Maybe 12 people, 15 people or so, just to have a conversation about a specific topic. Whether it's how to manage systems in healthcare or something specific, go look at them and don't miss out on those. Also the vendors, every vendor in the expo, a lot of them will have their own demos. Make sure you go to the demos, and if there's something there that interests you, put them in your schedule. Speakers are also required to do a Q&A, and it's usually going to be in the attendee services center downstairs. There'll be a Q&A section there. If for some reason you don't have a chance to talk to a presenter after he's finished, you can go ask him, are you going to be at the Q&A this afternoon? And make sure that he's going to be there. They may have a conflict, but ask them, and then you can say, I want to talk to you at length. I'll meet you there. Channel 9 is Microsoft's video production unit. They're here on site. They're capturing videos, and they're doing session replays just through Channel 9. So you can go to the Channel 9 website, get those session replays, or view other videos that they're filming downstairs. So the last thing that you want to do is, we've talked about connecting, we've talked about learning. Feedback. Give direct feedback to the presenters. If you got something for them, come up and tell them afterwards. There's going to be session evaluations. I showed that to you in the schedule builder. Fill those out on all your sessions, and please give your comments. You can go through there and say, yeah, this was great. Give it all 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9. Okay? But if you had something to say about why it was great, that's what they want to know, especially at the evaluation at the very end. So that's why I say keep notes. If there's something that you really didn't like or you really did like, make sure you make a note of it so that the session at the evaluation at the very end of MMS, you can put all that in there and say this was great, this was not great, and give the details. Now I've heard, obviously, to encourage you to fill out these evaluations, they have prizes. I've heard that they are going to possibly be giving out Windows RT as one of those prizes that are randomly drawn. So definitely fill out your evaluations after you submit it. It might say, hello, you just won. Maybe it won't tell you what you won, but you go downstairs with your code or with your name and show up, and you might get handed a Windows RT device. So lastly, you want to have fun. Okay, now they changed this up a little bit this year. The expo usually opens just in the evening. And this year the expo is going to open a little bit tomorrow morning. So you're going to kind of maybe have to play this out a little two ways. But usually at the expo reception in the evening, there's a very specific thing that you want to do so that you execute properly and are successful. The first thing you need to do is you need to get a bag. Okay? Because they're giving out stuff. Right? These vendors are giving stuff out for free. Get a bag to carry it with. I'm not talking a laptop bag. Go put your laptop bag in your room. I'm talking like a grocery bag. You can bring a pillowcase if you want. But most of these guys, usually someone's giving a bag out. So look for them. Get the bag, and then go around to all the vendors and take whatever they want to give you that you think is cool. Now, so you get the bag, then you fill it up. Do not be tempted by the food. Get the bag first, then fill it up, then you eat, okay? Okay, and then of course after you've done that, if you have time, you do it all over again, okay? So, and you may get a chance tomorrow because it's going to be open in the morning a little bit to kind of get a early cycle of that. The only thing that I say to do is after you go and you visit all the vendors and you get all the cool swag, through the week as you have a chance, go back to the ones and say, you know, that was interesting. You gave me something really cool, but your product seemed like it was something I might be interested in. Tell me more about it. So do that for them. There's vendors have parties. Now, most of the vendors don't just put up a sign that says, hey, we're having a party. If there's vendors here that you are a customer of, go and ask them. You having a party? You never know what you're going to hear. Obviously, the MyIT Forum party. We talked about MyIT Forum. Their party is first come, first serve. You have to get one of these buttons, okay? And it will be at the expo reception tomorrow night. You'll want to line up because they have probably 300 of them. The first 300 people that show up get them. People run to get them, okay? So that's why you don't want your laptop bag. You want to be able to run. And I'll show you where, this is the expo hall. That is their booth. So if you want one of these buttons, I actually have 3. I'll give them out to people who give me the best question that you can give me. Actually, no, I'm not going to do that. I usually put this task on the alumni that I'm going to introduce shortly, and they will give you some criteria to get one of these passes from them. So line up. The line usually starts a long time before 5 o'clock. So you want to get lined up and then run to the back. Okay, the attended closing party is the nightclub at the Encore. So what you do is you're going to meet a bunch of people here throughout the week, and you're going to have to find a way to get down there. So maybe you want to go down there early and check out the hotel or get something to eat down on that end of the strip, whatever. But get together with some of the people that you've met, take a cab down there, go right down the strip so that you can see the sights on the way, and then the party's at the Encore. Of course, don't forget the Twitter hashtag MMS Fun. So let's talk about meet and greet. I think I know a lot of the alumni were busy with some of the Twitter meetup and others, but I think I have some alumni here. Is there alumni here? We have a few alumni here. All right, if I can have you all come up front. I know you guys will have some people with some questions for you. So we have one alumni. Is there more? Yes, we have more. I've got my handheld mic here. So what I'm going to do quickly here, I've got I got one for you, and one for you, and one for you. And you guys get to figure out some interesting way for people to get that button from you. So let me, as a way of, how you should introduce yourself to everybody, just tell your name, who you work for, and how long you've been coming to MMS.
I'm Chad Till. I also work for Dell, and this is my 4th MMS.
On but not turned up.
There you go. Is it working? If not, we'll use this.
Okay. I'm Mike Niehaus. I work for Microsoft and have been to, I think, every MMS but one.
Fantastic.
I'm Steve Hosking. I work for Visual and IT, and this is my 2nd year.
2nd year, fantastic.
I'm Giovanni. I'm from the Netherlands. I work for a Microsoft partner, and I think this is my 5th MMS, something like that.
Excellent. So what I want you to do is, obviously, if you have any questions, I don't know everything about MMS. But if you ask these guys, they might know something that I don't. So they're up here. Here's how we're going to break up so you can meet some of the people from your area. You see I've got these signs up here for states. So it works like this. Here's the United States. If you're from these states, you're going to come up here to the front. This alcove up here. If you're from Alaska and Hawaii, you're going to go with them too. If you are from the central United States, you're going to go in this alcove in the back. If you're from the southeast, you're going to be coming to the back there. And if you're from the northeast, you're going to be coming up front here. If you are from outside of the United States, come up to the front here. And thank you very much. Good luck conquering the summit this week.